Secret friends, unite!
Welcome to the Secret Friends Unite podcast, episode 504. This is your guide to the geek side, and I'm one of your hosts, Todd Oxtra, in beautiful Sauvage, Minnesota, enjoying the season. It's not very crappy right now, which is good, and just having a good time, getting ready for the holidays. Got the holiday background behind me. The tree is decorated. The cat has only knocked the tree over once, and that was before ornaments, so I call that a win.
So it's a full-size tree, and the cat took a flying leap and knocked it over.
I don't know. I just found the tree down.
Wow.
The first day it was up.
Yes. I think because our little cats now they're 7. We've had them for 7 years, and maybe because we have a fake tree like you do, and we invested in a new one last year, but we had one prior to that. I feel like they used to nip at it. And I think it did go over once when they were young, so they were a little too ambitious. But now they pretty much leave it alone. I don't think we've had any issues with it at all. But yes, I'm back. Was gone last week, work function, but I have returned in our run up to Christmas. This is not our last episode for Christmas, because we'll be out next week on Christmas Eve. If I'm not mistaken, when we record next week, right? Because isn't that Tuesday? Christmas is a Wednesday.
It comes out on Tuesday. Yes. Christmas is a Wednesday. Yes,
that'll be your Christmas episode. But anyway, we've got a great show for you as always. It's good to be back. We have some very disturbing trailers to talk about. We have one disturbing trailer to talk about, and then we have a disturbing movie to talk about. Though, to be honest with you, it's the tallest blank of the I'm not using that word of the S.P.U.M.C.O films.
We're not jumping on the hate train.
We're not jumping on the hate train, but I was actually kind of surprised by how this movie turned out. But first and foremost, anytime we get a show rolling, we talk about our great Patreon squad, the folks who like you, if you visit patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite, try us out for 7 days for free. Stay on board for as little as $2 a month. What do you get? You get early programs like my show, Code 47, our Star Trek show. You got ad-free programs, which is everything else. You get bonus programs like The Facts Geek Life, a show that I do where I have a host, co-host, take a season of a classic show and break it down. Todd and I do a show called Spinner Rack. It's all about comics. Todd has his fantasy football podcast. There's all kinds of fun stuff on there. But you can check it out for free and then stay on board for $2. It's a mere fraction of what you pay in Starbucks every month. And as they said in the Blues Brothers, that's a lot of entertainment for $2. These awesome folks are the cornerstone of what we do. And Todd put the note in here, and we did share on our socials this week. You can gift a Patreon membership, which is totally awesome. Patreon.com/Secret Friends Unite/gift. Give something extra special to that geek in your life. Now, is that a monthly or a yearly? It's probably a monthly, isn't it? Somebody sign somebody up, or
it's a monthly. There is a way to actually do a year. You save 8%. You can actually provide a discount for a yearly as well. But yeah, this is basically a monthly gift you can give. So you can give one gift 1 month or many more.
Right, good stuff. Anyway, these fine folks do participate in our Patreon program and then get all those great perks. My buddy Derek Trevelyan, aka the Figure Dude, Francie, who is my wife's hairdresser, Mr. Luke Lore, Xbox Expansion Pass, and my great uncle Tim Horan. Friends with Benefits Level Johnson Dorf, the awesome Phoenix Sisters Entertainment, Kelly and Crayley, just about to launch their own podcast network, actually. Kelly was telling me last week, yeah. Brendan Myers, Corey and HD, Matthew Keel, and my journalist buddy, who has been a friend of the network for a long time, Kurt Krug. Thank you very much for being part of that, and without whom there would not be the Secret Friends Super Squad. That is the awesome, nice family of the Twin Cities, Sean, Stella, and Henry. We're very grateful for you. Todd, what you got a plug? You got something?
Yeah, so I happen to win a code from Xbox. The Call of Duty Black Ops 6 is the biggest game right now going on. I've got that code, and I thought it would be great to give it away to one of our either our Patreons, our listeners, our YouTube watchers. And to win, all you got to do is subscribe to our YouTube channel, put a comment in, send me a picture, and you can do that through our DM on Blue Skies or Instagram. And then you can also give us a podcast review on iTunes, Spotify, or YouTube Music. Once again, take a snapshot of that along with your user ID and send it there. Or you can subscribe to Patreon and just show us who you are. And you could win that code for Call of Duty Black Ops 6 with a retail value of $70.
What? That's a huge benefit. That's pretty awesome. So besides that, one more time, patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. We would love to have you on board. All right. Bills paid. Moving on to the program. December of 1993. So this is now 31 years ago. And it was funny. When I looked at this cover, I thought, oh, $1.75. I bet that's 1993. I was right. Transformers. Now, this is back when Marvel still had the license. It was probably close to the end because at this point in the 90s, the Transformers was kind of petering out the same way G.I. Joe was, if I'm not mistaken. It kind of hibernated for a little while and then it kind of eked back. And then with them, they had the Bay movies in the late aughts. But this is Transformers. Is it Generations or Generation?
No. So this is actually a suggested cover by John Sedorf. He said, hey,
nice.
Cover the Gen 2 version of Transformers, which I did not know much about. So this was, Charlie, this is actually the original run of Transformers ran for 80 issues.
Okay. Yeah.
There was a 2-year gap. And then they relaunched a new toy line. And so they decided to do this Transformers Generation 2 where it was going to be edgy. It was going to be darker. It was all about that basically the backstory is that the Autobots won, they moved on, and then a new threat came about.
Nice.
So this is actually written by long-term Transformers author Simon Furlong, who did he wrote the book like Larry Hama with G.I. Joe. Simon Furlong did the same thing, and he did this. He actually wrote. Yeah. He actually then wrote Transformers that lasted much longer in the UK for Marvel UK, I believe. So yeah, this is kind of interesting. It's got a lot of the normal suspects in regards to the Transformers, but then you've got Megatron is camouflage color because now he's a tank because he can't be a gun any longer,
right?
And you see, in the first issue actually was one of those chromium covers that was a gatefold that opened up.
Oh my god!
But the cover had Optimus Prime bullets in his head and things like that. So very gritty, very grim. But yeah, look at them; they're so extreme, Charlie.
I love it.
Those dinosaurs look very edgy.
You got Grimlock; he's drooling, but it's green. So I mean, that's kind of
slime.
Gross. Yeah, slime. And what are the names of some of the other Dinobots?
Slag, Swoop. You've got Sludge. Yeah. That's, I believe, did I cover everybody? Slag, Swoop, Sludge.
That reminds me, and I saw a panel recently, just skimming through Facebook on something. I did that Kickstarter for the G.I. Joe, the Complete Marvel run. I don't have my physical copy, but I actually got confirmation that that'll be arriving soon. And it's done in these 4 huge omnibuses, which covers the entire run, plus the special missions and the yearbooks and blah, blah, blah. But I got the digital copies 3 or 4 months ago. So I saw this, and I'm like, I saved, I have all the PDFs saved on the hard drive of my main laptop. So I opened up this one and I skimmed down the Eco Warriors. It was, remember that one? It was they were fighting pollution, and I feel you can feel how much Larry Hama hated doing it because he's they show up on a mission and pull Flint out of the field. And he meets the other guys and hey, I'm so-and-so, and put on your rad suit and we're going to go fight the main dude or whatever. It was just that hurts. That hurts when they break up the narrative flow.
Sorry, Larry, you're writing a toy line.
Yeah, I know. I mean,
what were you expecting? You're not writing Rambo. You're not doing Punisher War Journal. You're doing a toy line.
It had a very legit storyline for a very long time, but when you get to those last 40 issues, it just becomes nonsense.
Because the kids who want the toys want that gritty backstory.
Yeah,
the Vietnam of it all.
My brother and I were big fans. That's as much as I.
Yes, but I think most people were just big fans of it's Cobra and we're fighting a commercial for a toy, and there's Cold Slither.
And that was the one they really revolutionized. Having a commercial that could advertise the comic because you couldn't advertise the toy because it was
correct.
Against FTC rules.
Yep.
So.
Transformers was very similar. Yeah. But this series lasted 12 issues, and essentially, yes, at the tail end of the Transformers craze. They never truly went away. They eventually came back in '96 with
the Beast Wars. Was it
the Beast Wars? Yeah, which that basically rebooted everything and brought fans back like myself.
Nice. Good deal. All right. Well, someone who is never without people in their fan club is our senior news correspondent, Madam Webb. About to put a sesquicentennial on the line. Maybe I got that wrong. 125 years.
You did.
All right. What do you call it? We already covered this.
Charlie, we already talked about this.
I can't remember it.
It's a centennial of 25, a quarter centennial, or a centennial plus 25. Don't know. Let's move on.
You can't. You say we covered it, but you don't know either. But anyway, she's down at the corner of Hollywood and Vine. She's waiting to give us the hottest news and scoops in our news with Madam Webb. So let's do it.
Now it's time for Madam Webb's rumors and news. Take it away, boys.
Thank you, Madam Webb. As always, I know this is a very special time in your life. You were formerly Madam Claus. Mrs. Claus did not like that very much, so you were ran out of the North Pole, kicked the curb in 1925. He got you a job at Macy's.
Gimbals. Oh yeah, I would say
Gimbals. It was maybe Gimbals, and then you brought that franchise down. But you know what? You'll always be on his nice list.
Oh, well, we don't want to know what you had to do to get there. Anyway, we're like we're trailer park this week. We got 3 trailers. Good, scary, and then scary, but in a way that's not as scary as the second one. But the first one is, I didn't know anything about this. But this is super cool. It's called The Gorge. This is going to be my reason in February, because this comes out on Valentine's Day, to sign back up for Apple Plus and then catch up on Shrinking, which I know has been on for a while. Like that season's almost wrapped up, and a bunch of other stuff. I'm sure
Mythic Quest is coming back. That one show that I still don't know if you ever watched it, the Ron D. Moore show.
Oh
Did you ever watch that?
No, because I don't have the service. I didn't get around.
Well, it's been out for like 4 seasons.
Well, I guess I missed it the last 8 times I was subscribed. But anyway, this looks like original IP, starring Miles Teller and the only woman who is on Todd's Hall Pass list, Anya Taylor-Joy. And I see he's not even denying it, and and smartly so. And Sigourney Weaver, who I'm guessing has a very diminished role.
Wait, she's not on my Hall Pass.
You know what? You said it, which means you were thinking it.
Maybe you said and Sigourney Weaver, like you're putting people on there randomly now. Helen Mirren now on the list. Melissa McCarthy now on the list. I'm like,
I was going to say,
this is out of control.
Helen Mirren in 1971, yes. Sigourney Weaver in 1979, absolutely. But they're wonderful. But they are absolutely wonderful actors. But I digress. So Miles Teller is playing an ex. Look like a Special Forces Marine. He is reporting to Sigourney Weaver at a base saying, hey, if you don't have any entanglements, I'd love to hire you for a job. Over in Russia, I'm assuming, Anya Taylor-Joy is saying, I just got a mission. She's telling her best friend, brother, whatever it is. I got a mission and I'm going to be out of touch for a year. So Miles Teller shows up to this outpost overlooking a gorge where his handler says, you're going to be here for a year. There's no contact. And Miles goes, what's that thing? There's an identical tower on the other side of the gorge. And he says, what's that? He says, that's East Tower. And it's in Russia or whatever. They don't say. It's going to be one of those Top Gun things where they're like enemy country. But Anya Taylor-Joy's character is speaking with what sounds like a Russian accent. So I'm making assumptions. And she says, well, that's the other tower. And we don't talk to each other, but we have a deal that we keep an eye on the gorge. He's like, why are we keeping an eye on the gorge? He says, it's the gateway to hell. Oh, okay, got it. And then it's a 3-minute long trailer, so it's really
yes,
you show how he they're looking at each other's spy glasses, and she holds up a sign that says, "What's your name?" and he holds up a sign that says, "Well, we can't talk to each other." And then she like shoots an apple off of his railing or something and smiles, and so that's flirting, I guess, when you're shooting at somebody from a great distance. And it's kind of cute. Then they're playing chess. Using the signs to talk to each other. It's kind of adorable. But at one point, something pops out of the pit, and Miles is gonna go. He gets on a zip line.
Well, he was gonna slide across to be around her, right?
Oh, I thought
Right?
he
was.
I thought he
Yeah.
was doing that because he sensed that she was in trouble. But maybe he was just like,
Yes.
yeah. So he was going, but then his line gets snapped, and so he falls,
Yep.
and then she grabs a parachute, and because obviously I'm curious to see how Miles Teller survives, because obviously she jumps off in parachute. Oh, wait a second, I take that back. I'm remembering that he's falling, and then you see a shoot engage right before he goes into the clouds.
Yep. And then
And then
she
she
lands,
jumps, and then you
and
see
then
them both,
something happens.
and then something happens. So yeah, so that looks awesome. It is it's a standalone TV film, which is great because not everything has to be 9 drawn out episodes. Is this just going to be? It says it premieres globally on Apple Plus TV, so will not be in the theaters. But I think it looks terrific. They are 2 wonderful actors. Anya Taylor-Joy has been in a lot of great stuff. Miles Teller was not great in the Fantastic Four movie, but in 2015, but he has redeemed himself. Like in Top Gun with fighting evil country. That's what this is too. But yeah, what else do we know about this? I'm jazzed. I'm excited. I think this.
Don't know a whole lot about this. It seems like it was it was on the blacklist, which is a list of very popular unproduced scripts that eventually got found, which is cool. So this sounds like it's an original idea. And the director is Scott Derrickson, who basically directed Exorcism Emily Rose, Sinister, The Black Phone, and then Doctor Strange. So good director. So very, very quality work there. So I like that he's doing an action film with one of my favorite actresses. Miles Teller, he does nothing for me. He's kind of like,
yeah, he's a guy, he
is a guy. He's like a guy in The Thing.
Well, he's like, and it's not like he's he's not Brad Pitt, he's not like some gorgeous dude that women are gonna be like, ooh, Miles Teller. But still,
I don't know, a lot of ladies like him, but he kind of reminds me of all those guys that were like at the time, like the guy from Avatar, then Jai Courtney,
Sam Worthington, Jai Courtney. Yeah.
Jai Courtney. There's a few others like, yep, they could all be the same person.
Yeah. In that case,
no
both of those guys were Australian, so I don't know. But yeah, this looks pretty fantastic. So I'm looking forward to that, and I'm sure come February we will be talking about it in the Geek.
Apple needs a win, man. They've got these movies they've released, and they have been huge budget busters.
Oh, yeah.
So at this point,
it's a tough one. That's a tough one.
Yep.
To pump that much in, which is, as we've talked about time and again, it's easier and at the same time more difficult to measure success of something on streaming because this many minutes, like The Mandalorian had this many million minutes, but how is it, how many people are signing up, or is bootlegging an issue, and how much money are they really bringing in when people are watching something?
And I don't know if it matters to Apple, if they just want people in that infrastructure and buying iPhones and having things. So it's more like, hey, stay subscribed to Apple TV. And Apple TV has gone up in price too. It's now like $10. It started at $5. And so, everything goes up. And I mean, they put out typically the least amount of content, but it's typically quality. So
yeah, it's typically quiet content.
It is. It's very cool. A lot of times they don't even advertise it. It's like, okay, this came out. Didn't you watch it? Yeah.
Well, they should be paying us for giving us this promotion.
Like the Ron D. Moore show that's been out for 4 seasons. And yeah.
Well, I can't. I'm going to. There was that Battlestar Galactica 20th anniversary thing in Chicago that I didn't end up going to. Next year, it's going to be in New Jersey, outside of New York City. So I think I want to go to that because my buddy Louie lives in Metro New York. But I'm sure Ron Moore will be there, so I can't go to that and meet him and say I've seen some of your stuff. I have to be like, oh man, the thing with the space people, woo! But,
is that an annual thing now?
I didn't think it would be, but I got an email just last week.
I don't know. I don't know if he'll be there then, Charlie. I don't know. I just think if it's something like this annual, that seems like somebody's like, I've got more important things to do, like produce a God of War show for Sony.
The email said that everyone would be back. So we'll see. Yeah, but you're right. If it was an annual thing, it's like Star Trek conventions, right? Since there's 80 jillion people who've been in Star Trek, you can come and go. Yeah, exactly. So anyway, all right.
Well, we'll see.
Moving on. So the Winnie Pooh horror universe has been a thing for 3 or 4 years, maybe even not that long.
Like 3 years ago it started. Pooniverse is now a thing. Yes, that's what they call it.
I have not. Have we watched any of them and talked about any of them? Because I think they all look horrifying. Well, they're delving into your deepest nightmares with this latest one.
Charlie, I can tell you at this point, the Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey got a 4 out of 10 on IGN, and its sequel got a 6 out of 10, but they added Tigger, so maybe that brought the fun.
That was the Q factor. All right, well, Todd, tell us about this trailer.
Yeah, so they're adding to the Pooniverse. Peter Pan, Neverland Nightmare, reimagines classic character as a terrifying serial killer. Basically, he's basically abducting children and taking them to Neverland, a place where they'll never be hurt by adults again. So this is very much feels like, the guy attacking people, taking care of bad parents. And it does give you a vibe of like Black Phone. So you remember the mask and then like the weird part is though, he's like out and about like doing this and he's like jumping on a bus and taking a busload of children. So like, oh, okay.
Well, yeah, he jumps up on
whatsoever.
there and he's like, who wants to go to Neverland with me? And all these kids instantly go, and run to the back of the bus. Yeah, exactly. This is jacked. I mean, and I just watched this right before I came down here, and I'm like, this is the one that I think is really disturbing, just because it's too close to things that happen in real life. So it's not really very fantastical. It's just a serial killer.
You do see him like floating, like in one scene.
So is
he magical at all? Don't know.
Is he just imagining it and he's on PCP?
Oh.
Yeah. What if it's like,
so we don't really know where this is all headed. Well, I think we do actually. It says, so this project, just really quickly, this is coming exclusively to theaters for January 13th, 14th, and 15th, then basically on demand. So it's going to be quick in, quick out. It'll go on VOD. And after that trailer, we're getting Bambi the Reckoning, Pinocchio Unstrung, and Pooniverse Monsters Assemble. So we are getting the Avengers of the Pooniverse.
Are they going to team up or try to kill each other? It's going to be like a battle royale.
I don't know. I mean, I maybe it's first they beat the crap out of each other, then they team up, or maybe they think they're going to team up and something goes wrong. Finally, like maybe Pinocchio says, this is wrong. We should not do this. I don't know. Or maybe Bambi does.
Oh yeah, Bambi, the absolutely gigantic Bambi who can flip over an SUV.
That's right. Although I mean, a bear versus a deer, I don't know if that's going to go well. I don't know. I didn't think this would last, Charlie, but it is.
I mean, it's very much a proof in the pudding kind of thing. If they made one and nobody saw it, it would be dead. But now they're on what do we say? 5 films? Pooniverse 1 and 2.
2 have been released. This is the 3rd that's going to be made.
Yeah,
and then we're getting those others. They're even doing another Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Oh, nice.
And then we've got the Popeye films. We've got the Screamboat Willie. I don't know what's next. I mean, this is getting crazy.
Sherlock, some kind of messed up Sherlock Holmes. Anything that is public domain. That's wild. So also will not be seeing this one, but for people like our guest back in October, the Terrific Lady, this is your sweet spot. You should absolutely know that it's coming and enjoy it.
We're going to add one to the Shocktober list of next year. It's going to happen.
I'll as the sailor said, I'll do my duty for king and country. All right, moving on. 28 Days Later was a horror movie, and judging by the real terror in this trailer, Todd, was in the first 30 seconds, because it takes us back to the early, when did the first movie come out? 2003?
I thought 2004.
Takes us back to that time, and there's a group of kids watching the Teletubbies. I'm already terrified. I was so glad that with my kids, that's one that got skipped over. We did Bob the Builder. We had Thomas Tank Engine for years and years. We had the Wiggles. I know that was big for your son, but no Teletubbies. I feel like the Teletubbies was more like in the 90s, and maybe it died off because my son was born in 2000, so maybe died off by then. But regardless, we get a scene of some kids in a room back then, and an adult rushes in and drops one kid and says, close this door and don't open it up. And it's the kickoff of that movie, which was a zombie apocalypse. Cillian Murphy was the star, I think. Who was the old dude who was in it? Who was he's an actor, but he's also somebody's famous dad, British guy, the older dude. I'm drawing a blank.
I do not even remember.
He was in the Gangs in New York. He's just been in tons of stuff. But anyway, I'm just trying to remember people who were in the movie.
Christopher Eccleston, James
No.
Bond, or Doctor Who, Brendan Gleeson. That's
Brendan Gleeson is the dad.
Naomi Harris was in that too.
Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
Domhnall Gleeson, who is a villain in the Star Wars prequels. But anyway, yes, the your title card says, days turned into weeks. The second film in the series was 28 weeks later, has now turned into years, 10,000 days later. And so now it's been almost 30 years gone by living in this world, and you're seeing just snippets of film of this island where they've much like The Walking Dead kind of parallels, they've revolted to this kind of pre-industrial society where everybody has a job, like I'm in the watchtower, or I'm a farmer, or I'm a teacher, or whatever it is. And the star of this film is the star of the film we'll be talking about at the end of the show, Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Aaron Taylor,
he's walking around with a bow and arrow, and the one thing that was somewhat hotly debated, and it showed up as an image in the article we're looking at, is that a zombie kind of pops up almost like one of those pop-up targets that you would see, and it looks like Cillian Murphy. So that there's people saying, is that really supposed to be him? I think it absolutely looked like him. But
it does look like him.
The trailer just gives us an idea, not a specific idea of what the plot is, but just people are running around shooting zombies, and zombies are chasing them.
Well, but then they show like another group where they're wearing masks. So I don't know if that's like another group that's evolved. Maybe zombies have evolved. When these are like rage zombies, so it's like they're fast, of course, but they're not like. And I don't even know. Do they eat brains? Don't know. I can't remember.
I don't.
I just know they like tear people apart.
That's what. That's what they do. I don't remember them. God, I have to go back and watch. And I'm sure when we'll probably talk about this, so we'll want to go back and watch those films and kind of give us.
I haven't revisited the first one, and I've never seen the second one. 28 weeks later, and I'm like,
I don't know if I have either.
The cast is amazing in that film: Jeremy Renner, Rose Byrne, Robert Carlyle, Harold Perrineau, Idris Elba, and a few others. But I mean, like,
when did that one come out?
2007. So it's like a huge gap even between. Bing. So it was like a very short run, and then they got a sequel, and then they just said, let's go. And the cool thing about this is Alex, I'm blanking on his name, who's directed this.
Civil War, the guy who directed Civil War, not the Marvel one. I love that
and he's
movie.
Great.
Alex Garland. Alex Garland.
Yeah, Alex Garland, and he's teaming with Danny Boyle as who's going to executive producer, because he directed the first one. He didn't direct the second one either, but he's stayed on as an executive producer. So I think this is amazing. That I didn't realize that. I looked into it. The music and like kind of like that background. Radio. It was more like a poetry. That was a Rudyard Kipling poem that from like the early days of London, England, going in and doing some of their
Black Plague kind of deal.
Well, no, this is like, we're talking like, when they had their imperialism, where they were going over in Africa and doing different things going in. It was about that, and it's about the deaths of all these soldiers. So it's like that, and so all these things. So I'm like, that was a highly effective like trailer. So don't notice. Rose, the stress level was high. Very well done, and I will be watching 28 weeks later, because this movie comes out in June?
That raises another point for me. June. So how will this? I'd have to look at the other two films. How will this factor in to our summer box office challenge? Will this be a factor?
Good question. Long delayed sequels have had a rocky history.
Very unpredictable, because I mean, Top Gun Maverick was number one in the summer of 2022. That was 30 years apart.
An R-rated horror film. I don't know about that. Yeah,
but
it's not a 4-quadrant.
On the other part of it, horror films will surprise us in the summertime. Remember how well The Black Phone did? That was in our top 10 back in 2021. Correct. Yeah, so I think next summer is going to be very challenging. There's no doubt about it, because with the Superman and then 2 Marvel movies, and there's going to be a lot of ways to jockey around. But anyway, I'm excited about this. I think it said June 20. And we will. So, we should do a run up right before that. We'll watch the other two, and we'll geek easy them.
Absolutely. So, Charlie, the next story we've got is really surprising, and that's exactly what it says. The surprise Clayface movie already has a release date.
What?
And this is kind of interesting, because this is going to be direct scripted by Mike Flanagan. Mike Flanagan is a master of horror. He did The House of Usher. He did a lot of those horror series on Netflix, which are highly regarded. One was, I'm trying to remember the other ones he's done, but he's an amazing director and writer. And he is going to be doing this. And this is now coming out September 11th, 2026. And the interesting part about Clayface is we've seen him. The last time we've seen him in something has been the Harley Quinn.
Yeah.
So it's not really part of James Gunn's universe. So it's not like they're going to bring in that version of that character, which makes sense. But imagine doing a horror film within the DC universe and Clayface.
And this
that could be very well done.
And I'm looking, so this would be live action animated. I'm thinking live action?
A live action, and because we are getting, if this is really part of James Gunn's universe, we are also getting a Batman film called Brave and the Bold with him and Robin. So this could play into having more of like the rogues gallery that's a little bit more fantastic versus just gangsters and criminals like that. So that's pretty cool.
That would be a first. And yes, so the Batman is continuing on to be Robert Pattinson, correct? They're not changing
correct.
That
it's its own separate like pocket, like it's like an Elseworld, which is great.
So they're going to have a new Batman, a Batman and Robin is what you're saying.
Absolutely. With a Robin that's most likely going to be Damian. So we'll get a different side of that. So we'll probably actually get some real Bat family action, which will be cool.
That's good. Like you said, the more of the metaphysical, the supernatural of Batman hasn't really been done in any of the films. So that's pretty exciting. Well, that's cool. Yeah, I love it. And it's funny, I know Harley Quinn is going into season 5 because the trailer got dropped this week. I didn't watch it because I'm so far off on that show. I don't know if I was season 2 or season 3. And I've watched a little bit of Creature Commandos. I watched that first episode. And I thought that was pretty cool. But I didn't finish the Batman one that's on Prime. So I'm behind on that kind of stuff, though I really did enjoy it.
I do need to catch up with the Batman. I'm still working on Penguin. I think I'm 6 episodes into Penguin, which is great. Really love that, man.
Yeah.
Have you finished Penguin?
No, we haven't gone back to it because it's just been it's the holidays, so we're watching holiday stuff. So it might be after the holidays that we get back to it. But
I finally got to the episode everybody talked about where
everybody's
the hangman. That's I don't know if you did you see the episode where they explain her background and with episode 4? Did you get that far?
We've seen 2. We've seen 2.
Okay. 4 is amazing. That's a great episode. So it builds up and it's just like, where's this going? But it is a soprano. It's delivering.
Yeah.
So I really love that show.
It only took me 25 years to watch The Sopranos, so I don't think it'll take so long to get around
Charlie, it's taken me longer than that because I still yet to watch. I only watched it in hotel rooms, caught it up. So I'm like, that's pretty good, and never went back to it. So I never had HBO at that time. So,
that's the problem with content, and particularly in the world we live in now, is that no one, even if you did this for a full-time living, could actually keep up.
Correct. That's why I rarely even rewatch things because I'm like, I gotta watch new stuff. So
the only things I rewatch are Star Trek because I talk about it on the podcast. Other than that,
the MCU, Charlie, and the MCU because you talk about it. It's your 18th rewatch.
Well, that one was done with purpose. But anyway, so this will be, they have a date for this one, summer of 2028. So we'll be talking about
2026.
I'm sorry. That's the Batman movie. And the animated Robin movie was revealed. I'm sorry. I was scrolling down dates. But there'll be an animated Robin movie on June 30th of 2028, according to this. So look at that.
Yeah, they're doing something a little more kid focused, which is kind of cool. I think that's a good approach. Do a little bit of both sides. So
your Teen
very,
Titans.
Very cool.
I love it.
And Charlie, this is what's happening, man. With the Marvel universe, you know what? You know how you fix things? You bring back things that worked, and they said they're gone forever. And we're getting,
if what you're doing is not working, you can't keep doing the thing that you're doing. Going back to the well, you're absolutely right. But looking at the well that is being dipped into, because we heard last week that Chris Evans is coming back. Didn't specifically say what he was coming back as, but it could mirror something that is, like with Robert Downey Jr. coming back as Dr. Doom. He could come back as Nomad or some other version of Captain America or nothing at all. But they're bringing back, speaking of Hall Pass lists, one that's in the top 3 of my 9 would be Haley Atwell. Oh my God. What an incredibly beautiful woman. And one of my wife's favorite characters is Peggy Carter, Captain Carter. We do have What If coming back actually 2 weeks from now. Comes back just after Christmas. And Captain Carter plays a very big role in that. So she's on the zeitgeist.
And she is dead.
And she is dead in the 616. But yeah. And Agent Carter was a great show. One of the few things that ABC did right. Certainly
That's a little bit. I didn't catch my attention. I thought it was fine.
Yeah. Well, I know period pieces have never been like Mad Men was not a thing.
Well, no, it wasn't even that. I just thought the show was okay. I didn't think it was. I like the time era. I just thought the show was like, oh, it's another ABC Marvel show, which is
that's a good point. That's a good point. Well, I mean, if Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was any indication, but yeah, she is coming back. It does say she's reprising her role as Peggy Carter. So that part of it is confirmed. She's not coming back as Peggy's great grandniece or something. But yeah, the question is with Chris Evans coming back, who's he going to be? How does Peggy play into that? I don't know. But this is all, for Doomsday, which will be the next Avengers film, which will be out in 2026, because they're doing they're lining up the greatest hits. They got a 1-2 punch one summer after another. The Russo brothers are making it. They're bringing back the actors. If there was any other way that they could more explicit, tell me how Marvel failed after Endgame without telling me how Marvel failed after Endgame. It would be all this stuff. But it's
all
fun.
The stars are here.
It's yeah. Look, yeah. If you're not watching us on YouTube, it's this kind of very weak hand raise, like holding it up. Yeah, wasn't it that old skit on SNL? The two adult film actresses. Look at this right here.
I am guessing, Charlie, that this might be Old Man Cap.
Okay,
and they say they're not screwing it, but he's back. But he is, because essentially Cap is now of the age,
right?
And he is just back now as Old Man Cap, kind of like we had Old Man Logan, and
Commander.
Maybe that's good enough.
Except for Old Man Cap at the end of Endgame looked like Joe Biden. But I will tell you, in many ways,
wouldn't it be fun to see Old Man Cap do some stuff and say, I'm not too old for this shit? That's what you'd say.
They did, and I can't reach down and grab it, but probably about 10 years ago, Steve had lost his abilities, and he took on the role of Commander Steve Rogers, where he had a very similar outfit but no mask, and he had like a translucent like energy shield, which Cap has had on and off, while Sam was busy being Captain America, which he is obviously currently in universe. So, but they've also aged up and aged down Steve as he lost and gained the super soldier serum. So there's a lot of in comic continuity stuff that they can do to make it work. And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah, I think that works for me. That works better than just, he's a variant. This version of, it's this weird version of, or they do a flim flan. Agent Carter's back, but now we've got him as like, I don't know, name a weird character.
That's what I was saying. Like he would be like no,
not even that, Charlie. I think he's gonna be like D-Man.
Or like the super patriot was the identity of John Walker before he became Captain America.
Yeah, because they didn't say Chris Evans is back as Captain America, right? They said
exactly.
Chris Evans. So
correct, Amundo. So
no, it's actually it's the Steve Rogers that never got the formula. So he's just skinny. He's all like
he's all like floating head. Dude. He's the Hydra Stomper.
Maybe he has the suit. Maybe he has the Hydra Stomper. That would be fun. I think that would be cool.
Maybe
and he's de-muscled.
Maybe that can make it work. But again, Marvel, you tried. It's the version of Bart Simpson with the cake that says you tried and then he throws it in the garbage. That's the MCU after Endgame. Let's face it.
I mean, what do you think? The red one hurt his career, and now he's got to go back to Marvel.
Oh my gosh. I think Marvel just
too many Netflix films.
Marvel wants to get all of our money. But anyway, Avengers Doomsday will hit screens summer of 2026. All right, well that takes us out of the news. Todd, we've got to get to the geekies. I've got my Fuber. No, you know what? I threw out Fuber. Remember, we said Fuber was a thing of the past. We're using regular high class Uber. We get this beautiful car, but they stripped it down and it's only got the AM radio. They turn it on when we get in the car, and I hear a very familiar advertisement. Todd, do you know this chestnut?
Hey, Secret Friends Unite, let me tell you about Zencastr. We use them for our show, and now they're supporting us. Zencastr is now the all-in-one solution making podcasting easy. It's the ultimate web-based podcasting solution. Provides high-quality audio and video podcast production and hosting. With a full suite of professional tools, podcasters can seamlessly record, produce, and publish studio-quality content, all from one dashboard. Being a creator has never been easier. And we chose Zencastr because of the ease of use, high quality output, and it makes it super easy for our guests to come on. We had multiple solutions we tried before, and Zencastr has just been the best fit for us. Why Zencastr? It's now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sounds and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. Have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the right podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with a click of a button. So if you're interested in making an easy, high-quality podcast just with the click of a browser button, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code SFU1. You'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. Now back to the show.
Talk nerdy to me. Talk nerdy to me.
We're sitting in the Geek Easy, cover bands playing, drinks are poured. This week, I didn't get to watch a lot of new stuff, but I did catch something called Secret Level on Amazon Prime. This is a series that is by a team that does a lot of like CGI trailers and things, and they decided to make mini, it's like an anthology, Charlie, of video game stories, but they made movies or just like stories, kind of like Star Wars Visions. It's the best way to put it.
Oh, okay.
So this is by one studio that does this, and they take video games that you know of, but they basically make them, they layer on different like narratives and things like that. Well, the one I watched, it was crazy because it's basically Pac-Man, which I thought was really like, how are you going to do Pac-Man? We had the dumb Pac-Man cartoon.
Yeah, I was going to say they had a cartoon and we all loved it, didn't we? I think. Maybe we liked it.
Yeah, you know, Pac-Man, his lady, he worked at the Power Pellet Factory. There was a bad dude with ghosts. It was great. Yes, everybody gets, everything. Even Q*bert had a stupid cartoon on CBS. It was horrible. Like it was set in like the 50s, like Happy Days. Made no sense. They were like greaser jackets.
Oh my God.
Yes, we will need to go back and do like a worst of like
80s cartoons.
Like the ones that like, who greenlit the Laverne and Shirley cartoon where they were in the Navy and their sergeant was a pig? It makes no sense. It makes no sense.
Oh
Charlie.
my God. I love that.
Yes.
Some of my favorite YouTube videos are that kind of stuff.
So the cool part about this was this did not go anywhere at all there I thought it was. You basically have this alien who gets dropped out of almost like a like the back to tank. Think about that. But this alien drops out and he wakes up, and this floating orb, which is gold, has a slit. So think of like Pac-Man. So that's like your thing. Talks to this alien, says, "Oh, are you hungry? Well, you need to eat or you won't survive." And it's basically like 11 minutes long. And it gets pretty horrific. It gets about this aliens trying to survive this very dangerous world. It's a maze that the creature says you need to keep eating and get stronger to survive, to escape the maze. And there is a twist in this, like kind of like a Black Mirror twist. That's amazing. And I'm like, oh my God, they made Pac-Man into like a sci-fi horror film. Very cool, very moody. There's a lot of other ones. There's going to be a little bit more comedic drops.
I hope so. That sounds tough.
That one's a little rough, but then they had other ones. So I'm really interested to see them doing this. And it was entertaining. And it's broken up in 2 essentially drops on Amazon. So there'll be another set of episodes coming out, but they're very short, like 11, 15 minutes. So very digestible. I don't think it's for
Maybe
you,
not.
but
Yeah.
no, but there's kind of interesting how they're hitting all of these different franchises, which I think is highly interesting.
Yeah.
So it's fun.
My.
And I think you might have already talked about this,
Yeah,
but we finally.
I watched it, and it's Denis with one N, which is why I fixed it for you.
Is it?
I'm almost positive, but I'm not gonna bet my life on it. Denis?
Saint Denis. So myself and my wife have really gotten into the series. There's 5 episodes out. It's called Saint Denis. It's a comedic show on Peacock by the team who made Superstore, which we really love that show.
Agreed.
Really good. So far, I've only gotten to one returning star from that. It was the woman, can't remember her name. She's the very calm demeanor woman who the one going plot line in Superstore that woman was trying to steal her significant other that she loved. But in this, she's basically a saucy call nurse, not saucy in regards to sexy, but just kind of like doesn't take anyone's poop and just kind of avoids all the controversy.
She's got a smart mouth. Yeah, she was we watched one episode. Yeah, she's the main character, but in Superstore, she was like the security officer or whatever. She was
No, not at all, Charlie. You got him wrong. You got him wrong. No, she's not. So that character is not on the show at all.
Oh.
No, it's so basically you don't have any of the main characters in that. It's basically one side character. I can't remember her name was. She is a person of color, kind of a little bit larger, but she played the very nice person on that show. Kathy, I think, was her name.
Okay. So she's
Shut up, Kathy.
She's the kind of the sassy black woman in this. Got it.
A saucy woman of no discernible ethnicity, which is great. Which actually plays into it because there's one episode about Filipino nurses, which is very common. My wife knows that Filipino nurses are a huge part of the Philippines. A lot of them become nurses, and there's a group of them called the Filipino Mafia, which they call themselves. It becomes a very funny episode about like diversity and like managing things. And then the one character I've been talking about says, well, they think I'm Filipino and I'm okay with that. Makes me feel good. So it plays with a lot of things, but man, David Allen Greer is amazing in this. He's like the major name.
Yeah. I did remember because we've watched one episode, and I wouldn't say I found it compelling enough to go back, but it's one of those probably
it gets better. Just like comedies always do, right?
It's one of those we'll probably cycle back around, and all of them will be out. Now, is that a Peacock? Is that on network or is that an original?
It's NBC and it just goes to Peacock.
Okay,
so it's both network, places. Yeah. So if you still have rabbit ears or a cable subscription where you get or YouTube TV where you get NBC, it's on Peacock.
Yeah, we have Peacock currently because of SNL, but yeah,
I just signed up for Peacock again. I got a deal. It was $2 a month for a year, so it was $24.
I think that's what ours is too. So
so you can watch all the Yellowstone, Charlie.
That's right. It is there. I own it. The last episode of Yellowstone is on tonight. As a matter of fact.
Yeah.
Which means we'll watch it in the morning because we get it because we had to buy it to get the current season. I've said this before, and then it drops the day after air. So whatever, it's a very short run, but I'm sure a lot of stuff is going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So I don't know how long this is going to be. It may be like 12 episode seasons or something like that, but I like it. Seems to be doing well.
Right.
And I always need a typical comedy, and I'm glad this one came out because I like the creators. There is a new series on Netflix that I've been meaning to watch. It's by the creators of The Good Place and with Ted Danson, where he's investigating fraud within a nursing home, and he's brought in.
Okay.
Yeah, it's called The Inside Man. That one's supposed to be good too, so I want to watch that as well.
Okay.
But it's very good. So yeah, there's some things coming in regards to comedies, which I've been meaning to watch.
Yeah.
And really get into there. And Charlie, I got to watch the Dune show. That's on Max right now.
Yeah,
I'm behind on that. I forget it's out. I need to watch that. What If is going to drop soon.
I'm going to let you can be my barometer for the Dune thing. Because Dune is not my super jam, but if it's great, I'll check it out. Yeah. Yep. But yeah, What If is back on the 28th or 29th. So I'm excited about that. Yeah.
And I've only watched one episode of The Skeleton Crew, not Key Charlie, before you say it. That's a show.
Yeah. You're not a fan? Well, we won't have you on to talk about it.
I just find it to be very okay, and it's very much like Goonies, but there's kids that, and because like I said, it reminds me of Prodigy, where at least those kids are escaping like slavery in mines, and these kids are just like kids in the suburbs who just don't care about making their parents pissed off. Yeah,
right. Yes, very much like Goonies or E.T. But anyway,
I need to watch more. Yeah, I'll figure it out. Yeah.
Anyway, we're having fun with it. So the third episode, you get more of Jude Law doing his thing, and that I like.
And that's what I've been waiting for, Jude Law.
Everybody's waiting for Jude Law. All right, well, it's a slow weekend. Weather's kind of crappy, so we went to the movies twice. We saw Kraven, which we'll talk about in the next segment. And I missed seeing this one that came out last week because I was out of town, but Y2K, which is a trailer that we talked about some months ago, is a comedy film by Kyle Mooney, late of SNL, he's always made his mark playing the stoner character, whatever it is. You can tell he's around our age because he grew up in the 90s. And then you've got the kid from Deadpool 2, whose name I cannot remember. The Kiwi kid, heavyset.
What was his name? Fire Fist?
Yeah, Fire Fist. That's what he called himself. The prison wallet guy. And then your star is the young man who was Bill in It, the most recent adaptation is the thing I remember him from.
Oh, that's right.
And then you have the absolutely gorgeous Rachel Ziegler is the female lead. So in a town and in a place where they don't have to wear jackets outside on December 31st, so I'm gonna say Georgia. On December 31st, 1999, you've got two buddies who are geeks. And the Bill the geek loves Rachel Ziegler's character, and there's going to be a New Year's Eve party with the popular kids, and our guys just go hoping to make it the night of their lives. But much like in the trailer, after the clock strikes 12, all the machines come alive and start murdering all the kids in this house in different gruesome ways. This was all for the trailer, and I'm going to keep this spoiler free because Todd, I think you should go see this movie. You'll be very
Charlie, I tried to see this movie.
What happened?
In 2 theaters across the country. It's got such a limited release. It's ridiculous. Yeah, I tried to go see it. Try to find it. I'm like, it's showing at like 1 theater. So this one has got like, it's only on like 20 screens.
That's so weird because obviously you live in a bigger metropolitan area than I do. So I figured it'd be easier to find instead of the other way around. But it's I will admit that it's not doing well. So I think you're going to end up seeing it.
No, I was going to I think it made less than $1 million first week.
So I think you're going to end up seeing it on VOD or on, I don't know who the production company or what studio is, which streamer it'll end up on.
Good question. Yeah, it earned $900,000.
Wow. I mean, it was admittedly
2,100 locations, which is actually not too bad.
It's kind of in the middle, because
that's horrible. That's got a C minus, 44% Rotten Tomato score and C minus on Cinema Score, which is if it doesn't get an A, then it's like, ooh. But you enjoyed it.
Yeah, I will absolutely admit that that it's very niche-y because it's for people like you and me.
I was going to say I thought it looked fun for me. Yes.
Yeah, it's for people who are in their mid to late 40s.
They made it for 10 people.
Yeah, who grew up in the
mistake.
The mid to late 90s because it is Member Berries the movie. It's like, hey, do you remember? Even April was laughing. It was me. It was she and I and one other person in the theater.
Yes.
There was 3 people in this theater, and we sat and just heckled it aloud and had fun and laughing at the AOL references and the Tamagotchi and all the little 90s things, videotapes and computers, pagers. Member Berries the movie. Todd, you will enjoy it. You'll definitely want to see it, but it sounds like at this point it'll be streaming.
It's A24, so that's like, I know they make smaller movies, but they did really well with horror. So maybe horror comedy people that's a small niche.
April looked it up as we were driving home on it's made, like I said, maybe $2 million on a $15 million budget. So it's a huge bomb. A huge
Kyle
bomb.
Mooney, you may have to go back. Well, he tried to go back to SNL.
He
was like, he was on an episode, and I'm like, oh, he got like no pop. I think he's the guy that stop trying to make Chris Mooney happen, and it kind of did.
Chris Mooney. Did you change his name?
See, that's why I don't even remember his name.
Yeah, right. You remembered Mooney. Anyway, so go check that out if you can. April is a huge fan of Dexter. There have been 2 series. There was the series that ran on Showtime in the, I'm going to say early 2000s, ran for 8 seasons. I pulled one of yours, Todd. I watched a long recap video after we watched what I'm going to talk about because we've seen the series, but it was probably 8 years ago. So I remember very little. So that was super helpful. 2 years ago, there was a sequel series, which was only 8 episodes, which had a which I thought it had a very definitive ending, but this new show undid that. There is now a prequel out to Dexter. Again, it's on Showtime, which is Paramount Plus. If you have that bundle, which you probably do if you have Paramount Plus, because they find a way to make it as such, but it's called Dexter Original Sin. 1 episode is out, and we're dialing it back to 1995 because Dexter, they show his birth in this. He was born in 1975. Todd, you and him are the same age. You're a Dexter.
And what happened? I could have been a serial killer too.
Yeah, he's your birthday buddy. But anyway, yeah, it's 1995. He's a 20-year-old college student. He's graduating pre-med, and the father character, who's played by James Remar in the original series, is now Christian Slater, which is kind of cool. And at this point, Dexter is going hunting with his dad in order to secure his dark passenger. You've seen the show. You've seen a little bit of the show. You're at least familiar.
Nope. I know of it. I know the premise, and I know it originally ended on a bad note where he went away in a boat into a storm.
Right. People hated it. And then, when he faked his death, and then the sequel series, he is living in a town in upstate New York, and things come back around again. And his long lost son finds him. That's the premise of the reunion series. But yeah, anyway, so in the new series, only 1 episode out. He's a 20-year-old. He's never killed a person, but he and his dad go on hunting trips. That's how he keeps his serial killerness at bay. But something in this foments to what's going to bring that out. And so I don't know how I'm going to say this is probably your standard 8 to 10 episodes, I'm guessing. And it's a weekly release, and there's probably a new episode dropping today or tomorrow. So, if you enjoyed the series, you'll like it. If you don't have any idea what's going on, it's probably not that difficult to pick up, but it's the
beginning, right? So at least
right. But it is a bookended by the end of the previous sequel series.
And he voices over it, right? Michael C. Hall voices over himself.
It's like young Sheldon, but he's a serial killer.
But with less comedy.
more comedy.
He's such a cute little serial killer. And then they can go back, Charlie. They can do Dexter Babies, and then you can go further back.
Oh my goodness, this is great. So yeah, like I said, Paramount Plus, Showtime. And I mentioned I finally watched Red One, but Todd covered that. That's a lot of fun. That's over on Prime. But I never talk about YouTube channels because I skim around, and I've become probably of anything that I watch, YouTube is the most of it. Because I have YouTube Premium, so I don't have to worry about the commercials, so it's easy to watch. But I stumbled on this channel, and I shared this with you and John earlier this week, but these guys have been making these videos for maybe a year. The channel is called This Aged Great, and they take movies from our childhood.
They stole our idea, Charlie.
They did. They take early 80s.
This holds up.
Yeah, this holds up. Exactly. They take early 80s. Sometimes they go a little further back. Like they have some Elvis movies that are in there, which I haven't watched because I don't know Elvis movies. And then they take some
in this race.
lemonade. What a cool, refreshing drink. They take some stuff from the late 90s, early 2000s, and it's 2 buddies, and April and I watched this together, and she said the second guy just it's like a radio show. The second guy just
laughs. The other guys, they're just in the background, because I watched just one of the guys. I watched that one.
That was the first one that got me, and it's just really illustrating how movies from our childhood are horrifically problematic in the modern world. Police Academy, Revenge of the Nerds. I watched The Other Sister just now, which was the Juliette Lewis movie, where she and Giovanni Ribisi are special needs people that find each other. It's just a lot of really Cobra, which was a Sylvester Stallone movie from the 80s. Oh my God. Hopefully he'll be doing
You're the disease, I'm the cure. That was the only line I know from that one.
And these guys he punctuates it really well by, just illustrating how stupid it is. So that's the name of the channel. They do have a t-shirt. I might have to buy it eventually if I keep loving it on the channel, just because I think it's hilarious. So anyway, that's on YouTube. And I give it my recommendation because it's a lot of fun. And Todd, I'm assuming you enjoyed the one you watched.
Yeah, I mean, it's fun. I mean, it's
Yeah.
it's exactly said. The one guy's basically going through the movie, finding things that are funny.
Yeah. And the
Just
other
one of the
guy-
guys, is that
Yeah.
movie. It's like exactly the premise is just dumb. I forgot some of the things. I'm like,
Oh.
okay, yeah, that's really bad. Yeah,
The absolute worst one so far was Soul Man, the C. Thomas Howell movie.
Oh, you can't even talk about Soul Man anymore.
No,
Like,
it's like
mention it.
it's like Song of the South.
If you even
cannot
like
talk
told
about
somebody
it.
the premise or the plot, it's like
It's horrifying.
that's not real, right?
I cannot believe not only did it get made, but that it's still you can watch it somewhere. Yeah.
Are they going to cover Born in East LA, where Cheech Marin got kicked out of the country because they thought he was illegally here? Like, that's another great movie. Yes.
Especially in this day and age. Yikes. But anyway, that is the end of the Geek Easy. We've got to get out of here. Got the Air Qantas app out because we've got to get ourselves down to the land down under because Hologram Tina and the mutants are awaiting for us to talk about the end of an era with the S.P.U.M.C.O. that is Kraven the Hunter. So we will be right back.
Welcome to another edition of Thunderdome!
Thank you, Tina. We're sitting in the Thunderdome where the mutants been gathered for a topic or a game to be entertained. And this week, we're hitting this kind of in a double, two-fisted focus. It's going to be our spoiler-filled review of Kraven the Hunter, and then we will pivot to the future of the Sony Spider-Man cinematic universe of Spider-Man characters, aka S.P.U.M.C.O.
Yeah, the S.P.U.M.C.O. part of it we kind of embellished because I think most people just call it S.P.U.M. or Spider-Man Universe Marvel.
Sony's cinematic universe of Spider-Man characters. So it's Spimic, maybe.
What's the it's a S.P.U.M.C.O. Just it sounds like a fake corporation that you would be that they'd fight in a Lego movie.
I think S.P.U.M.C.O. was the name of the company that did all like the Ren and Stimpy, a S.P.U.M.C.O. company.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what it was. What it was. Yeah, S.P.U.M.C.O. with two umlauts. That's actually the animation studio. So there you go. I must have been.
My goodness.
Yeah.
It was rattling around the typewriter. But anyway, this is the fifth or sixth release, I think, because three Venom, Morbius, Madam Web, and then this. So that's 6.
Yes.
And as far as we know, this is the last film in that cycle. But anyway, this film came out this week, directed by J.C. Shandor. Don't know who that is. I think of Ivor Shandor, who was the villain in Ghostbusters. Some Shandor I know.
Shandor, the bad guy. J.C. Shandor, I will tell you right now, Chris, or Charlie.
Whatever my name is.
He directed A Most Violent Year, Margin Call, Triple Frontier, and All Is Lost. And his films previous to that were decent. I mean, they got like 7s, 8s. So yeah, this is kind of, he was brought on though to do this film.
Right. He indeed was. So yeah, it's 127 minutes, very digestible. Came out obviously, as I said, this week from Sony on a budget of between 110 and 130 million. We're tracking about 26, which gives it very little chance to make back its budget.
Needs about 300 million to probably make back and to be profitable is the best way to say. Yeah,
exactly.
You
correct.
Double it for marketing, and then you go from there. It's like, can you do that? And then if you triple it, then you're pretty much in the red.
Triple in the black. Triplets is more of a, I think, statistically sustainable. But anyway, to summarize, Kraven's complex relationship with his ruthless father, Nikolai Kravinoff, and his brother, starts him down a path of vengeance with brutal consequences, motivating him to not only become the greatest hunter in the world, but also its most feared. Starring, we were already gushing with our love of Aaron Taylor Johnson. He is the titular character. Ariana DeBois plays Calypso, who is actually a character from the chronology. He is, of course, he's Spider-Man villain, and Calypso worked later on in the story. His brother, Fred Hechtchener, who was recently in Gladiator 2. He's one of the
the Emperor, the second Emperor. Yeah.
That is Dmitry Kravinoff, who is also The Chameleon, the very first Spider-Man villain. Don't let anybody tell you any differently. ASM number 1, 1963.
Really, I did not know that.
He was, yep. Yeah, he was. That issue was a 2-part story. First part was
he like disguising himself as Spider-Man? Is that what it was? Or what was he doing?
That was a component of it. It was a 2-part. The issue was split in half. First issue, he meets first part, he meets the Fantastic Four. Second part, he has to bust up a scheme that the Chameleon's doing. Actor Alessandro Nivola, who's been in a bunch of stuff.
Nivola?
Nivola, isn't that what I said? Joe Davola?
No, you said Nilova.
Nilova. Well,
it doesn't matter. Moving on.
Yeah. Anyway, as Aleski Citrusevich, he's the Rhino. Christopher Abbott is the Foreigner. Nice deep cut character. I was impressed by that.
I was going to say I didn't know if that was a real character or not.
Yep, absolutely. Is Russell Crowe is the dad, Nikolai Kravinoff. And then we get a lot of smaller characters as we go down the line here. But the Foreigner, and again, I watched a breakdown video from one of the usual ones who do Screen Crush.
So that's his real name? Yeah. So that is really the Rhino's real name is Alexei Sisevich.
Yeah.
I didn't know that. Okay, cool.
Amazing Spider-Man, I'm going to say 40 or 41 from 1966 was his first appearance. Of course, that was in the middle of the Cold War, so Russian character, just like, Kraven was a Russian character. The Foreigner was actually from the 80s, and it was in Peter Parker, the Spectacular Spider-Man, in an issue where Spidey, I think it was 116, first has a big battle with Sabretooth. And Sabretooth slashes him, and Spidey webs his face, and Sabretooth rips his face off, taking off the webbing. Very memorable.
Well,
but
wonderful.
Anyway, the Foreigner was...
Did he have that ability?
He did. That was lifted from the comics, so that was legit.
Okay.
All right,
well, Charlie,
let's get into it.
So this movie, I actually saw the first 8 minutes of the movie. They were just showing it early. You could watch it online. And I'm like, this seemed kind of cool because it opens up to we're in Russia. There's a train taking villains to a maximum security prison. And so then we see then that Sergei Kravinoff has worked his way in, taken out one of the criminals, and goes in there, and then he's there to essentially take down Semyon Chorny. And this prison is pretty bad. And it was funny. The one character that was very interesting was Kraven's roommate, who was a big dude, kind of reminded me of Jaws from James Bond.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and he was kind of funny. And then basically Kraven is there to do a hit. And it's funny, he tells the one guy, I'm only here for 3 days. If I'm still here 3 days later, you can kill me or take your shot. And he says, by the way, can I sit with you at lunch? And he says no. So I thought that was kind of cute, kind of fun.
They can't sit with us. Yes, exactly.
No. And then we essentially get I would say a very good action sequence.
Yep.
And we get to see essentially Kraven's abilities, which he's very agile, very strong.
Parkour central. Parkouring his way up walls and bending metal, and he's very supernaturally strong, but he's not, Spider-Man, but he exhibits a lot of the same stuff. And that does pull from the comics somewhat. Kraven was master of the African jungle. He drank potions and herbs, and that gave him super strength and all this kind of different stuff. So that did pull somewhat.
Sure.
Yeah, that was not bad. And look at this. Look what I got right here. Oh my goodness. It's Kraven himself.
And he's fluffy.
He can sit right here with me for the rest of the show.
Very good. He will tell you the tale.
He'll be on my shoulder.
And so that's kind of how we open. And then he gets away on a plane with a character that they don't ever show the person's face. I don't know if they mentioned somebody's name. So Charlie, is that another deep cut of somebody else that
no clue
you should be aware of?
But yeah, they kind of tee Kraven up to be this international. You don't even, it was a little fuzzy. Like he's a people hunter, but he has money for a plane. So how does it? Do we find out why he has money? Because
I'm guessing his mom must have
funneled
off. Well, I mean, his dad. He's the son of a very bad criminal who's got a drug empire. So I'm assuming he got some money funneled away from that, because we find out that essentially, because that leads us into actually fast forward. We go there and we actually then go back in the past, and we are actually learning about the two brothers of Nikolai, played by Russell Crowe, who are in America at a
prep school.
Yeah, they're probably 15 and 17, I'm guessing, or somewhere around there. Young Sergei and young Dmitri. Dmitri is kind of the basically he's a milquetoast. He's always being protected by Sergei, and they get along really well. Very good brothers, and their father takes them away. He says, "Hey, I need to tell you something. Your mom's dead. She was weak. She was all these bad things." And the boys
it was funny how Russell Crowe is always talking about how don't be weak. Don't stand there and look weak. Like he's always picking Dmitri apart. Now, this was something April was asking me about, because we didn't put it together. They're half brothers. And Dmitri is Nikolai is the father of both, correct? But not the same mother. Yeah, because it sounds.
Or are they? Okay, I didn't know they were from separate mothers.
Yeah, he gets called a bastard at one point or whatever. So, but I mean, in that context, I mean, so it sounds like he's the milkman baby, or he's the one night stand.
Interesting.
Yeah, I thought
I didn't put that together, because I'm like, well, because they both kind of react badly to mom being gone.
I don't know why. That's worth looking into again, because I don't 100% recall, but I feel like that was brought up.
It might have been just an aside to kind of make him feel bad versus being true.
Yeah, I don't know. But at any rate, the brothers go off on to have some family bonding in the wake of this terrible event. They go hunting in Ghana, in Africa. We get an aside for a young black girl who's with her grandmother doing tarot card reading and talking about mystical powers of this thing and that thing. And this is young Calypso. And the grandmother says, "Here, take this jar. It's a super duper healing potion. Yibba yabba yuba. Put it in your pocket." Then Calypso jumps back on a Jeep with her parents, who they're visiting from wherever, and they're doing a safari tour. And off in the distance, the two brothers are walking with their guns, and they split it from their dad, and they come upon a giant lion. And Kraven, Sergei locks eye contact with it, and they're having a moment when Russell Crowe shoots it, and it goes berserk and attacks Kraven. Is mostly chewing on his backpack, but does sink his teeth in, and then carries him. It's weird. He carries him off to like a spot, and then kind of drops him and walks away, because he gets shot. So the lion gets shot several times, so he probably goes off and dies somewhere. Well, we know he does.
Correct.
But
it was just a precursor with Calypso beforehand. This potion, you need to keep it to save someone, and the card is what? Lion is on the card.
It was strength. Strength was the card. So she walks up to him. The lion is bleeding. A drop of blood falls from the lion into one of Kraven's wounds, and Calypso comes up at that exact moment. And pours some of the liquid into his mouth, takes that tarot card, tucks it in his pocket, and then she breaks out. And then, he gets rushed to the hospital. They bring him back, but he's changed. He's got lion blood, not unlike tiger blood. And then he's got the potion. So now he's got the super jungle powers. Boom. That's his origin story.
And it was funny because Calypso, her parents were lawyers and just visiting. Even though the family, like the relatives are there, but they're actually like from New York or whatever, so they're like Americans there. And then she's traveling with her parents, and she just gets off the safari vehicle and just starts walking around. I'm like, come on now.
Well, yeah, who's going to walk around the African bush just like
that's so safe?
Yeah, exactly. It's terrible. It's an absolutely terrible idea. So when they end up back at the compound, when Sergei's back on his feet, he decides to leave for good. Dmitri says, "Don't leave me here," and he's like, "I got to do what I got to do. I love you." Blah blah blah. And he walks away, and then we come back to present day.
Yep. Apparently, the sanctuary and the Lenny was his mother. So they before Kraven,
that's where he
got together. That was hers, and so he takes it over. And to your point, yes, Dmitri is a half brother. Charlie, I just looked it up really quick.
Okay, very good.
And I'm like,
that was really the case from the comics, and the whole brother part was not established until during the plot line. It was just before the Clone Saga for Spider-Man in the 90s, where the Chameleon faked Peter Parker's parents being alive. And then it was established that who he was, and he was brother to Kraven. And then it was obviously exposed that the Richard and Mary Parker he brought back were not real, but they were robots or whatever. You know how it is in comics.
Yep.
And then Aunt May died and then came back because so that was all what was going on. Oh, I know. So anyway, we're back to present day. And, obviously we already know that Kraven's running around doing all this killing and stuff, but we go to this club where Russell Crowe is sitting having a drink, and Nikolai has been by his side all these years, and he's singing, but he's doing this beautiful impression of Harry Styles.
Tony Bennett.
Harry Styles in this case, and then Tony Bennett.
First, and then he does Tony Bennett later.
And then, of course, Nikolai mentioned, he says, "Oh, my son can sing like anything. He's like a chameleon."
A chameleon.
Exactly.
Bing bong.
Bing bong.
Loved it.
Bing, 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 bong. And yeah, so Kraven comes back because this is his brother's birthday, and Nikolai pops by, and the three of them have a drink. Kraven is just really not having his dad around. They go back to Nikolai's pet, or the chameleon. I'm just going to call him by the character name, Chameleon's penthouse. But Kraven is restless, so he goes and sleeps outside. And when he comes back in the morning, the chameleon has been kidnapped by this bad dude who turns out to be the Rhino, a rival mob boss, because Chorney was killed in prison. There's this big vacuum in the mob world, and so now they're both Russell Crowe and the Rhino are going to be rivals for power, and so that's how the chameleon gets sucked in as a pawn in this, and so Kraven has to get involved. But he then contacts. He then contacts the now grown up Calypso. Because he bumps into her at a funeral. Because
he showed up because he was tracking her. He says, "I've always been trying to find the person who did this for me." And quite honestly, I don't know how the hell from a card.
Yeah.
And maybe, I don't know if he even saw a glimpse of her. I mean, he was pretty much out of it. So I don't know how he traced her back.
Maybe a fingerprint, something like that.
Maybe that, or he smelled the card. He could trace her maybe from her scent.
Maybe. But anyway, she's
in London and Dimitri's in London. So maybe that's it came full circle.
She's a big muckety muck lawyer, and a friend or a relative got murdered because of the gang war. And so she's preaching about it at the funeral in the rain. It's one of these, it's in the rain, but it's bright sunshine, which never happens when I'm in the rain. So it's dark when it's raining. But when you have a rain machine, it can be bright outside. So they kind of start to form a friendship. And she's a lawyer, but she's got connections, so she can help him find out where his brother is, whatever it is. And then so that leads Kraven to this monastery in Turkey, because the guy who kidnapped him is this Turkish guy. I think he was an original character. I'm not sure, but he goes to this monastery and we see him doing full Kraven stuff. He's going up the wall. He's punching guys. He's got the glowing yellow eyes like the lion. He's got the eye of the tiger, whatever it is you want to call him. And it's a setup, because then the monastery gets blown up and he falls down the wall and all this. I love it out the rubble. He and the Turkish guy go spiraling down this cliff, and they're like, blah, 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 and then they're both still alive, because you expect Kraven was going to be alive.
Well, he falls on the guy, so that's the classic, right? You fall on the guy, you don't take any damage. Kraven is pretty much like indestructible at this point.
I guess because all of the rest of the debris comes
rubble,
down and lands on Kraven. He got
out of the rubble. Yeah, and then we obviously get that they try to investigate to see if he's there.
Yeah.
They find a body, but it's not Kraven, it's the other guy, and Kraven takes them out really quick.
Right.
One thing we didn't touch on, Charlie, is the Rhino, and he had and his powers and capability. So he, as a kid, he said he was like fragile, frail, and then he went to a doctor who gave him this cure.
This is the beauty of the Easter egg. The doctor he went to, and he drops a name, Miles Warren. Miles Warren is the guy who started the clone saga in Spider-Man. He's the guy, because he was
Jackal. Is that who he is?
He's the Jackal.
Okay.
And I don't think I can quite. I would grab the figure if I could, but I can't. I can't quite reach him. I'd pull him out as well. But he was just a normal dude. But he was a geneticist. He was obsessed with Gwen Stacy. When she died, he cloned her. So that was your first clone. He also cloned Peter, who became Ben Reilly.
We cannot go in there, Charlie.
We're not going down there. That's the end of it. But anyway, he comes back. So he does get name dropped twice in this movie.
Yeah, and I noticed that. I'm like, I don't remember the name, but yes, that made sense. That if it's somebody that's going to play into this as like a mad scientist, he has to wear a backpack because his skin was very fragile and all that. So this basically, he was treated with this treatment because his skin would become hardened and bad. and
he would grow a
gives
horn.
him super. He can basically, like a rhino, he's strong and protected.
Right.
But he takes this drug to prevent it from happening. But if he connects
unplugs
he
it.
basically becomes the rhino.
Yeah.
And is a lot of but he goes through pain when he becomes the rhino.
Right.
So that's
that's not really a very close adaptation from the comics, because in the comics, he was just a Russian thug who got experimented on, and then they wrapped him in the suit, and he can't get out of it. But he is super. Yeah. He does have superhuman strength. He's maybe as strong as. He's not as strong as the Thing, not as strong as the She-Hulk. He's maybe a class 40, I would say. So definitely stronger than Spider-Man. But yeah, he's a rhino and can crash through things, yada, yada, yada. All right, so now Kraven brings Calypso into the mix. He brings her back to the family, his mom's property.
Right? He's got to protect her.
Yeah.
Yep.
And so we find out, and we saw this earlier in the movie when Sergei first went to the property, there's this weird like greenhouse that he lives in. It's like the octagon with the glass windows and stuff. But he's got it all fixed up with, shelves that drop down from the ceiling with knives and guns and stuff. And she says, "Oh, I know how to do a bow and arrow from summer camp," and she picks up a crossbow. I'm like, you really think they're teaching crossbow at a summer camp? That seemed a little bit out there. And some of the dialogue exchange.
Well, it wasn't a crossbow; it was just a compound bow. I mean, a bow, compound bow, same difference.
And this exchange in this scene, and April and I were in agreement on this. Calypso is the worst part of this film. Just the way she talks and her just general. Her plot in the storyline, her part in the storyline and general dialogue, I just didn't really care for her. Where everyone else kind of seemed to fit.
Not
their
well
role.
Done. Yeah, not a well written character.
Yeah.
Ariana DeBose is a good actress.
Yeah.
And she was given nothing to work with. She's basically like, I'm here as a plot device. Call me plot device.
Think about Natalie Portman or Sam Jackson in the Star Wars prequels. Just bad scripting, bad directing. Sorry, George. At this point, so they're in the Serengeti or wherever the family property is. They know that at this point,
it's Russia.
Yeah,
it's
Russia.
It's a Russian reserve.
It's in Siberia. Yeah. So they're able to track him. We haven't talked about the Foreigner. So the Foreigner is this assassin that can hypnotize people, and then he doesn't even move quickly.
Takes off his glasses,
and he can say 1, 2, 3
seconds,
and someone will be paralyzed, and then he can sneak up on him and kill him by just walking over. But he is a trained assassin. He shows up I want to say the Serengeti and Siberia, and he's having a one-on-one with Kraven by using this power, and so he's able to kick Kraven around. But he also has this crazy poison that shoots from a dart gun that will kill anyone in 30 seconds. It's a nerve toxin, and he gets Kraven with it 3 or 4 times, so it's really bad. And he's about to deliver the death blow.
Spiders, Charlie, and if that's a precursor for nothing that I've ever heard of to link him to not like Spider-Man.
Yep,
it will be spiders.
It certainly wouldn't be the spider in the Kraven's Last Hunt, which is Kraven's best story. Certainly, there were big aspects of spiders in that. Apart from Spider-Man. But anyway, the Foreigner is about to deliver the killing blow where he gets the classic arrow through the eye socket from Calypso. And oopsie, and she comes upon Kraven and he's dying because he's not indestructible, but he's just this side of indestructible. She has a last little bit of the potion from way back.
She has another set. She has like the mega dose. She pulls out another one.
Yeah, but it's like, where did it come from? Did she make it in all this time? Who knows?
Yeah, she says, well, he goes, I thought you only had one. He goes, I've got secrets, and that's why she's good at that. So I think they're also going to lean into like Calypso is. She goes, I come from a line of very powerful women, too.
So there you go.
I'm guessing they were going to lean into if there's a Kraven sequel, then you find out like, her background, and she's actually an assassin lawyer.
Yeah, and that was something I read, is that the director of this film says, well, if this takes off, I want to make a trilogy, the last part of which will be Kraven's Last Hunt, and those are not going to happen. But anyway, she gives him the dose. He's fine, and so now it's time for the final battle, because now the Rhino is leaving, and again, he still has the chameleon with him. Kraven assembles the bison to attack the convoy.
His old friends, the bisons,
exactly.
That have been killed how many times in this movie, Charlie?
I guess. Yeah, that's right, because there's a big sign where he's fighting poachers and they're killing the bison. Yep. So anyway, this does give us a chance to see the Rhino in his final form, because as the bison are destroying the convoy, he pulls his port out and he rhinos up, grows the horn, which they don't really explain, but he's the Rhino, right? And they have a big fight. Again, he's shirtless, but he's not in a big thing of armor. He's just kind of regular guy size, and they fight, and he's beating the crap out of
He
Kraven.
bulks up. He
Yeah.
bulks up a
A
little bit.
little
He's
bit.
strong, fast, stronger than Kraven. I mean,
Kraven is finally able to take him down by jabbing something into the port on the Rhino where he gets his juice, and that slows him down enough that Kraven can throw him back into the bison herd, and they stomp him to death. So he's not invulnerable. And then so then he kind of like part of his face comes back and he dies, kind of like a werewolf. And a werewolf gets shot, he turns back into a person.
Because Sergey was going to kill him, and he says, "Don't do it, Sergey." And so basically, because his brother basically throughout this movie, I felt bad for him, obviously a lot, because he's
very
being used
abused
as a pawn. He
very
knows
abused by
it,
his dad,
and he's not treated well, and he blames his brother for he did forget. Says I forgive you for abandoning me and leaving me with father, who quite honestly not a good dude,
right?
And it's a pretty good relationship story with him and his brother, because you see that they do love each other, which I'm
so sorry, brother. Sorry.
Yes. So and he did. Yeah. I mean, so then we basically got that, and we essentially are getting towards the end of the movie where this is going to go and where we go next, right, Charlie?
Right. So we do a time jump a year forward. Kraven is coming back to London again to celebrate his brother's birthday, and he shows up at the club, and his brother's singing and whatever.
Oh wait! We missed the end.
Well, we haven't gotten to the end yet.
No. I think Nicholas, we have to deal with. I
guess that does happen beforehand. You're right. So
Correct.
Kraven then comes back, and his father's nowhere to be found. It does turn out that his dad orchestrated all of this to create a power play, had his own son kidnapped. Yeah, the Rhino, the Raven, the Rhino, whatever.
Yeah.
Poor Nikolai also poor Alexei also lost a finger in all this, which is kind of a bummer. So Kraven orchestrates his revenge, which he tracks his dad down to a hunting party at night. They have a bunch of tents and shit, and he shows up, and they have harsh words, and he says, "I'm not going to kill you, but it's one of these. I'm not going to kill you, but I'm not going to save you," because Kraven is walking off, and he drops all the shells to the elephant gun, and a big grizzly bear comes out and murders Russell Crowe. And that is the end of the dad. He kind of was reaping what he sown.
Until you find out that actually the blood of that bear dropped into him, and he became the KGB.
Oh, KG. No, the Ursa Major.
The bear, Ursa Major.
Ursa Major.
Ursa Major.
Yeah. That would have been the.
There you go, Charlie. The October Guard. It's all brought together.
Oh, the October Guard was G.I. Joe. You're thinking of the Soviet.
Oh, what am I thinking of?
Soviet super soldier.
So there you go. See, I brought it all together in a weird way.
So anyway, yes. Now, as I was saying, he's back in London. His brother's in the club, whatever it is. They're having a drink, and his brother says, "Really, you're just like Dad. You suck." And he takes off walking, and Kraven follows him, and he catches up to him and puts his hand on his shoulder. Meanwhile, Alexei had said, I went to New York. I met with this Miles Warren guy.
Sergey.
Yeah, Alexei. Alexei says that. Alexei is the chameleon.
No. Sergey is his brother. Alexei is the
chameleon.
The Rhino.
Oh
no,
Dmitri.
Dmitri. Sorry, Dmitri. See, we're getting all these Russian names.
Just use the character's name. It's easier. Chameleon says to Kraven, "You're just as bad as Dad," and then he takes off in a huff. Kraven follows him, and he puts his hand on his shoulder. Says, "Chameleon, wait!" And he flips around, and he has Kraven's face. But as he turns around again, he shifts between, and he has the Chameleon's classic white face split down the middle. So that I really enjoyed.
But you didn't say how because he also said, I went to a doctor.
Exactly. Yeah, he went to go see a doctor in New York.
The same doctor.
Who is the same dude. Exactly. So Miles Warren gets a somewhat of another name drop. And then the chameleon just walks off. So the brothers are at odds, which would have, that's a kind of a start your engines if there would have been a sequel, of which there will not be. Yep. And then that kind of wraps things up. I don't know. Is there anything else? He and Calypso are good. I don't know. She doesn't come back again.
Yep, and there was no stinger in this movie. There was nothing to stick around for because I always look at that and didn't need to. So we ended the movie, and as we were talking about this, Charlie, everybody's saying like this is the worst movie of this whole
Yeah,
franchise.
there was a
six.
lot of vitriol coming out. All of the big ones saying, "Oh, this movie." I saw a 3 out of 10 as one of the ratings, and I was like,
Yeah.
after having seen Madam Web, and you and I both saw that back in February, that movie was beyond dog shit. I could not even fathom how bad that movie was.
Was the worst.
That was
the worst.
That was not
Oh
only
my
the
God.
worst of these 6 movies, and the Venom movies were pretty bad, in my opinion. But Madam Web, it's just they went the extra mile to make it bad. This movie, I actually enjoyed. The only part of it that I found kind of grating was some of Russell Crowe's dialogue. You're weak, don't be weak. Weak, weak, weak. And then Calypso. I found Calypso to be kind of unbearable. The fight sequences, Kraven running around, I like Aaron Taylor Johnson. That all worked for me. I liked all that.
Yeah, it was believable. He was highly physical. The kills worked. I thought the kills were interesting and kind of cool, where he was going around with like shooting like the darts.
Yeah,
it was
a regular Kraven thing.
I like the Foreigner.
Yeah.
I like that character. I thought it was kind of a neat take.
And that was
the Rhino wasn't horrible, right?
It was better than Paul Giamatti in Amazing Spider-Man 2 with the
Russian
big armor.
tracksuit.
Russian tracksuit guy. So yeah, I have to say that of the S.P.U.M.C.O films, you and I talked about this yesterday, this was the winner, but it was the tallest little person of the group.
Well, the damage has already been done. Nobody wants to see these movies.
Yeah.
And you can see that the box office just like even the last Venom movie.
There's a 90 degree angle just going straight down.
Absolutely.
45 degree angle.
And I'm looking at a Game Rant thing. They had a thing about like where these movies all rack and stack. So the number one performing, like in regards to like actual like critics, was Venom at 6.6 on IMDb. Venom: Let There Be Carnage, IMDb 5.9. Then we had Morbius, IMDb 5.2. Madam Web at 3.8, and
very
I
generous.
don't know where this movie is ranking, but I know this one was ranked the lowest. I'm like,
yeah, I just don't get it.
I don't get it.
I don't get why, because again, if you'd seen any of the other 5 films, you know what you're walking into. And I feel like they made more of an effort to now agreed. And I read one article blurb that said, "Oh, he's one of Marvel's classic anti-heroes." He's not that at all. He's not the Punisher. No. He's just a villainous character who happens to be, a hunter of, he's not even really a hunter of men. He's the world's greatest hunter of animals. And he takes on, the reason he got involved with Spider-Man in the first place is because J. Jonah Jameson hired him to capture Spider-Man. Spider-Man humiliated him. So now they're enemies for life. That's how that went. So he was, Kraven's focus and then Kraven's power set were kind of all over the place. That was kind of annoying. Didn't like Calypso, didn't like Rusty Crowe in this, didn't really think he worked. But again, they didn't give a lot of people a lot of things to do. But as far as looking at these 6 films all together, this was number 1 for me. I couldn't stand the Venom films at all. Absolutely dreadful. Morbius, we covered that.
It got worse.
Yeah, April and I talked about that. April and I have decided we're going to cover all the S.P.U.M.C.O films in A Bad Trip to the Movie with the Cardinals. Yeah. So we've already done Morbius. So again, another reason.
Charlie, you have too much time on your hands to put yourself through that again.
It's you know what, we have a good time doing it, and that's really where it's at.
Oh, as long as you enjoy it. One of the only critiques, I mean, obviously there's this movie's not. It's not a good movie, but I did have fun. So that's the least I could say.
I agree.
And nobody was ridiculously terrible. I think some of the parts was, I feel bad for Ariane DeBose because her part was she was just, like I said, she was a plot device. That's all it was.
Right.
She was given the lines and she had to read them, and she's a really good actress. The one thing though, that really I felt could have been better is if both Sergei and everybody who was that was Russian just spoke Russian. Oh my God. I wanted him. I wanted Aaron Taylor Johnson to just bring on the full-on Russian accent. Yeah. I think it'd be so much fun.
It wasn't even half and half, because like all the stuff in the prison, they were speaking Russian.
And then he sounded like he was from New York.
Was he
raised in New York?
He didn't.
That's why?
That was just the thing, because he really wasn't, because the family home was in London. They were in that prep school, but then he just lived on the Serengeti. So maybe he spent.
He didn't even have a British accent if he lived up there either. So how did he get this?
he was really all over the place. You know, and Eric, it just there was no really pinning anybody down. You would expect that the chameleon would have had a more British accent because he lived in England all that time, and he didn't. Nikolai spoke in the Russian accent, but he was obviously from Russia and going back.
Yeah.
So there was no way to pin down really the kind of regional diction of anyone in this film. And I guess you just got to let it go. But all right, well, let's give it, let's ping it with a rating. You've got 10 spears to chuck through. I'm going to land this one at a 5.5. You know, I think this was definitely right in the middle of the road. Yeah, it was definitely right in the middle of the road.
I was going to say 5.5 seems really low. I mean,
okay. That's a good point.
From what you said, from what I took away for what you said, I'm like 5.5 seems like
I
don't
think
bother. But.
I think I'll go with the 7. I think I'll go with the 7 now that you mention it, because I deduct away from all the things we were talking about, but it was fun. It was particularly in the lens of looking at the other films. I think a 7 is fair.
Yeah, I'd say 6.5. I mean, to 7, it's somewhere in there. Because I think this was a watchable action film above anything else. You didn't. I mean, and yes, you had like the rhino part that was the only like real like, okay, it's CGI, but still, it played better than Paul Giamatti in a tracksuit.
Right. And, again, holding it in the lens of the other S.P.U.M.C.O release this year, which is one of the worst films I've ever seen, where nothing worked, which was Madam Web, which is probably the lowest rated film that we've ever talked about.
And no one was killed by a Pepsi logo in this movie.
Right.
So
yes.
Props.
There was no soft drinks were harmed in the production of this film. All right. Well, your final pit is what is next for the S.P.U.M.C.O. I can answer that very easily. Nothing. It's over. It's over. Turn out the lights. When Jim Morrison said that, when the music's over, turn out the lights. Yeah.
Yeah. And I do believe the deal right now, Sony and its cinematic universe of characters or whatever are still owned by Sony or licensed in perpetuity. Typically, though, with those licenses, like you have to do something.
Yeah, I can't sit on
license after so many years. So we do know we're going to get another Spider-Man Marvel film, right? So that essentially keeps the license going. Spider-Verse is not live action, and
that's not that doesn't correlate then? That's not part of it?
I think it's still for them to be able to use Spider-Man, animated or not. It's still part of the deal. So that potentially will continue it on, but we're not getting that probably until 2026. I'm guessing. It sounds like it's been delayed. And then if that's the last Spider-Man film by Sony, like that is basically distributed by Sony, owned by Sony, because if Spider-Man shows up in Marvel, that is a Marvel film. So at that point, Charlie, I'm like, if they finish Spider-Verse, I think there's going to be 3 films in that. Well, which we'd get to the last one. And then we're getting this Marvel one. There could be a gap where there's nothing Spider-Man related.
So they might lose it, is what you're saying.
I'm thinking what will happen, Charlie, is they'll say, let's make a deal. You get the live action Spider-Man, all his characters. We will keep the animated portion.
Everything.
And quite honestly, I would be perfectly happy with that because Marvel has done nothing with its animated characters on the big screen.
It worked. What you're describing works because the only thing that Sony has done that has been universally beloved in the last 10 years has been the Spider-Verse film. Because people were fair to Midland about Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. People didn't really resonate about Andy Garfield as Spider-Man, and then everybody loves Tom Holland as Spider-Man. But that's over at Disney. That's Marvel with the joint deal. And then everybody loves the Spider-Verse because it's a different, fun take, younger skewing. It's a little broader appeal. That would be great. So obviously, this is something we're going to be talking about for a very long time, but it's a shame that this, much like other films that had something in the same series that came before it that was terrible and tanked things, this film was not set up for success. So they were not going to blossom and have a big run of it, which is too bad because again, it was to paraphrase Homer Simpson, it was a perfectly serviceable wagon story. paint your wagon. Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
exactly.
it was good.
I only have one other thought, Charlie. If all happens is basically Sony essentially sells Disney their portion, but Sony gets the back end deal where they get like ongoing. They still get like a cut of anything Spider-Man is in, which I'd be perfectly fine with that too.
And they make a lot of money, which is all that these people really care about.
Although I do worry with Marvel, with all the characters you're going to have with Fantastic Four. I'm like, where does Spider-Man even going to fit? Because there's just too many things going to happen, and it's like, when's he going to show up again?
He'll just keep being Spider-Man. Well, he has his own movie. So, all right. Well, S.P.U.M.C.O, we unfortunately knew you a little too well. But we are happy to, much like Spider-Man in Kraven's Last Hunt, we have shot a poison dart into you and buried you into the ground under a big tombstone. But you will not be coming back. As far as we know, we think you're all gone. And
so if only we get more adventures with her.
Oh my goodness. All right. Well, folks, that is the show. Thank you for joining us. Todd, where do people find you out there?
So now basically on Blue Skies and Threads, and with that, at Todd Oxtra, at Secret Friends Unite on the Blue Skies, no dots, no underscores, no nothing. And then on Threads, at T Oxtra, at Secret Friends Unite with lots of dots on Threads. Find us there. And Charlie, I found out people are having trouble getting to our Discord, so I think we need to add our link in our, we probably need to put our link to the Discord in our notes and make sure it's the one that stays open, because I noticed people had a hard time getting in.
Well, and you know what? And I'm glad people are trying. As he had mentioned, our Discord is the place where all the greatest chats are happening. We do, of course, have presence in other places, but Discord is where things are popping. But you can find me on Instagram, Threads, and Blue Sky as at the C3 TheCeeThree, where I'm talking about stuff, having fun, etc., etc. And again, Discord is where the fun stuff is happening. We would love to have you there. If you're an email writer, secretfriendsunite@gmail.com. Feel free to drop us a line and ask us a question, give us some commentary, and we'll be very excited to talk about it on the show. But with that, one more time, friends, thank you for joining us. I'm going to tell you that sharing is caring, and keep on trucking.
Be the hero, not the villain.
In a truck.
In Mother Russia, we break you.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and podcast services around the galaxy, as well as video on our YouTube channel. You can support Secret Friends Unite by becoming a Patreon member, get bonus programs and more over at patreon.com/secretfriendsunite. Join our Discord community for even more discussions on all things geek. For all the latest updates on Secret Friends Unite, make sure to follow us on Threads at secret.friends.unite and visit secretfriendsunite.com. Find our merchandise at TeePublic and Redbubble. Thanks for listening, and may the Force live long and prosper.